within paid social, A/B testing is probably one of the better strategies to go forward with. So doing your evergreen content compared to potentially one of the user-generated content, and just kind of testing them at the same time frame and seeing how your primary key performance indicators like interact or are within those campaigns. A large majority of our clients are already aware of like how important brand recognition is. And so like when we're talking about that Google business profile, making sure like those reviews are top notch, like 4.5 or better, we're having those conversations and then trying to understand if your property is not doing so hot, let's look at your Google business profile, see what the reviews look like. And if it's like a 3.0, 2.0, like, okay, like let's look to see like what's going on the property or on site, which kind of leads into like, okay, well, there's other contributing factors that come into play.
Hey, this is Reid Wyckoff, CEO and founder at Digible. I want to welcome you to another session of Riffing with Reid, or podcast. I don't know why I'm calling it session, probably because I met with my therapist last week. Bad dad joke, or just joke in general. And I'm only half kidding. But anyhow, I do have Mitch beside me. He's one of our thought leaders here at Digible on the client services team. And he will introduce himself shortly. But just as a refresher, we are going through kind of backstage with Digible with our thought leaders, just talking a little bit more about the inner workings, I'll say, of digital agencies, marketing, but also the things that we've learned along the way that we would love, as we've said many times, we are public learners, to kind of pass on, share with our listeners so that you can hopefully get some value from it and perhaps take some action, in your markets or in your marketing teams. So welcome aboard, Mitch.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Awesome. Well, I told you offline, it's very important that you establish your credibility here. So, I don't know if I can do that for you, other than the fact that I think you're very smart and I've heard wonderful things. But yeah, why don't you add to that? Tell us your background, why you are the wizard that you are.
Yeah, absolutely. So I went to University of Colorado Springs, studied communications, and my last semester, I tried doing an internship for a Quad Innovation Partnership. So they basically were trying to, solve problems within the community. They'd bring in all the 4 colleges within the Colorado Springs area, and we'd basically just be there to solve problems and within different businesses. And I really loved that. And but then later on, I switched to working for an organization called the United States Anti-Doping Agency. Very unique opportunity there, but they gave
Was
me...
the focus cycling, or was it...
I actually did have cycling.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I got a hit there.
I talked to David all about it too. So,
I bet.
But yeah, so they actually offered for me to go back to school. And so I got my master's in marketing.
Wow.
And then I switched over to actually working for an agency, worked for one where I was focused on B2B, B2C, and also e-commerce. So I got the full mix and was there for roughly 2.5 years. And then came here at Digible and been here for about a year and a half working on just those bigger accounts and whatnot and loving life. So,
yeah, changing the world, man.
Yeah.
One day at a time.
Exactly.
Well, I have to ask before we breeze by it, but you mentioned a master's in marketing, and maybe I'm just out of the know, but I wouldn't know exactly what that really means or what that looks like, because I just marketing's so broad. So but so are a lot of majors. Tell me a little bit more about what a master's in marketing entails.
Yeah, it was a really cool program. Got it from the University of Colorado Denver, and ended up I guess it kind of span over a course of digital marketing and then also advertising and all these different psychological different things too. So it was really cool to be able to kind of dip my toes into all these different types of marketing, but where I really fell in love with was just digital marketing, because that's where our world's going and everything. And I kind of want to get ahead of the game and get right into it rather than doing advertising instead. So marketing is definitely where my heart lies.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you've heard this, statement, but when people are admitted to Harvard, getting their MD, medical school, they're told that 50% of what they learn during school will no longer be true within 10 years. So what do you think that timeline and that percentage is for marketing?
So I actually was getting my master's while working at the agency, because I quickly realized that USADA, that I was like, I am learning everything, and then I'm not applying it to what I'm doing, and so I'm just losing that knowledge or
Yeah.
not using it. So
Yeah.
I'm losing it, and like when I was doing the digital marketing course, like my specialty was in paid search. I like was really in the weeds within paid search for all my clients and everything, and um, I guess when I was in the class for digital marketing, we like did like this training on how to like run a PPC account.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all talking about manual bidding and like how that was best practice. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
sitting there, I'm like, well, I've been taught at this agency that that's not the way that it's to do things. And like,
Mm-hmm.
there's all these other strategies that come into play.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was already like talking to the professor, being like, hey, like, this isn't right, but like, this is what you're supposed to do. And she's like, no, this is like, you need to do it this way because this is how the curriculum's taught. And so I was like, all right,
I'd
well,
be like, peace out.
yeah,
Not for me.
yeah, for real. Yeah, it was really challenging, but I had to like take what I knew and then also take what I'm learning in the class and like kind of like combine the two together. So
Yeah. No, that's a good perspective. I would wager, if you were to replace that Harvard Medical School statement to marketing these days, 80% of what you learn is probably not going to be, I'll say meaningful, instead of right within 10 years.
yeah.
Just and paid search is one of the ones that is easiest to point to. Will paid search exist in 10 years?
Mm.
What are your thoughts, Mitch?
Oh,
Yes or no?
I think a version of it will exist.
Okay.
I don't think it'll be not anywhere near what it is today.
Yeah.
Especially with like how many times Google's sending out those updates and
Mm-hmm.
everything and saying,
Mm-hmm.
hey, here's another list of AI features that we're rolling out. So
Mm-hmm.
less time commitment on you guys, and like you're going to get the best performance if you just spend that big budget.
Yeah.
So
Talk about an existential crisis for Google, though, right?
yeah.
Is, they have the largest audience, but it is getting picked away at by the day, not just by GPT, but others of the like. But certainly that's probably the most formidable competitor. And the more that they try to compete with ChatGPT, the more they put their core business at risk, But the thing that I guess appreciate for now, and all of our clients should know this, is why Google is because it was always performance based. Not meaning every click is ends up being a home run or a lead, but you don't pay for lack of engagement, lack of results. Relatively speaking. But that'll send us off on a different rabbit hole. So just to pull us back up and get us oriented for this conversation, you were already getting me revved up just talking offline about what you're excited to get into today, which was a variety of things, but maybe the one that stood out to me was how to account for the variables at a property level that influence the results of marketing and ultimately the business outcomes that owners and operators are aiming for that don't show up in a paid search campaign. Mm-hmm. So tell me, and I'm going to hopefully set this up right for you, but often what's expected between a marketing, one of our clients and an account manager is at the end of the month, you will dive into a reporting call and you will pull up the results from, in our case, Digible's campaigns. So that could be organic, could be paid, think TikTok, think social, Meta, paid search. And you'll also look at maybe some back-end metrics, meaning Google Analytics. You'll look at some call analytics. You'll look at the direct results from that campaign. And if you're not careful, or if you're not intentional, make a decision about how to optimize the strategy strictly based on what's inside of that bubble, I'll call it, versus, hey, there's all these other things that are happening too that we probably shouldn't ignore or overlook. So is that set this up well for like what you're trying to like almost change the conversation in a great way, but it's like, hey, let's broaden things. Let's be a little bit more comprehensive in how we're talking about performance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I kind of relate like this industry just to like a business to business where like it's a very long or I guess sales cycle. We as marketers are trying to drive MQLs to the property, and then it's the property's responsibility to turn those MQLs into actual leads and then potentially leases.
Quickly have to do this on this show. We will, and you can interrupt me if I do the same. But not everybody knows all the acronyms.
Gotcha. So MQL.
MQL, yeah.
Marketing qualified lead.
Versus SQL.
Sales qualified lead.
Right.
Yeah.
So MQL is a little bit above. SQL is like even,
Further down the funnel.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to slow you down.
Yeah.
Just want to
No.
make sure in
Yeah.
case if you're moving too fast or using too much jargon.
Okay, sweet. I'll
All
make
right.
sure not to use that.
No, so you were saying though, our job is to drive those MQLs.
Yep. Yeah. And then like there's all these external factors that like again come into play when like looking at the data at the end of the month and like trying to understand it and paint a picture to like help our clients understand, hey, where should we be spending our marketing dollars? And for me, it's like kind of interesting to see like, oh, well, one property may like have dipped significantly within our lower funnel convert or lower funnel marketing tactics such as paid search. And so like we see all like these acquisitions or marketing qualified leads disappear, and then the performance looks like it's really, really bad.
Mm-hmm.
So that cost per acquisition increases. And we of course like have these benchmarks that we like have set for across the industry and whatnot. And so we want to try to maintain the ability to stay within those benchmarks. But when there's I guess one thing that I want to talk about is occupancy and how important that metric is within our marketing efforts. If that occupancy is at 97%, of course we're not going to be able to see all those MQLs come down the pipeline, especially because there's no supply available. So the way that I phrase it to clients is when like a user clicks on an ad and sees, hey, this property has two bedroom apartments for X price, they click on that ad and are taken to the website. And then when they don't actually, like they go to the floor plans, they're exploring the gallery and like, oh my gosh, I love these images. Like I love the pool. I love the amenities. But then they like go to the floor plans and they don't see any 2-bedroom apartments for rent.
Mm-hmm. Bad experience.
Exactly. And so then they leave the website and that's like $2.50 out of your pocket for that click. And
wasted spend.
Exactly. And so that's what actually increases that cost per acquisition, because you're spending more money for a single acquisition rather than trying to generate more brand awareness when you are at that occupancy of 97% for future, I guess, opportunities. So
do you have either in your head or something that you've learned from this incredible company, Digible, any kind of suggestions on in that exact scenario, which I think is really helpful because I'm sure makes it land a little bit more for those listening. In a scenario where you're stabilized, usually that is going to be in that 97, 98, 96, just depends on who you're talking to, on how to think about pipeline, sustaining a healthy pipeline. So let's say you don't have a 2-bedroom available. It's not one of the floor plans unit types that's available. Would you say totally wasted effort spend on anything promoting or marketing a 2-bedroom? Or would you say we should hedge to some degree or maintain, I'll say, some level of marketing there? Because if there's too much of a gap and you get too rigorous about wasted spend, then you could end up drying up your pipeline. So I feel like there's some sweet spot or maybe balance that you need to sustain even when you don't have the inventory, because I know we were really excited when we made some of the integrations and plugins. We were like, the only ads that you will see are the inventory that you have. But what could be lost in that is my pipeline. And so I think you have to straddle like what's not a good experience. We both agree on that. It's like, hey, I was looking for that 2-bedroom and it doesn't look like you have any. So why were you marketing that to me? Versus you shut that down completely, and couldn't that turn into a pipeline issue?
Yeah, I think I guess as an overall answer, I think it's great to have just a healthy media mix. And what I mean by media mix is like having brand awareness channels in place, consideration channels in place, and then having your conversion channels. So you have it all throughout the marketing funnel where you're capturing say for the usual time that it takes for someone to look and lease an apartment is roughly 60 days, because you have to give the 60-day notice that you're leaving your apartment. So you have 60 days to capture that renter's or that potential renter's attention. So you start they don't care, they just put in their 60-day notice and they're like, okay, I'm going to start the process maybe within a couple of days or a week or 2 weeks, and because it's a very strenuous process where it's it just takes a lot out of you to have to pack everything and have to figure out where you're going to live and whatnot. And so Of course, like having that brand awareness tactic of like, okay, I'm going to show an ad on geofencing or paid social where like it just pops up and then it shows off your unique selling propositions, whether it be the pool or shoot, I spend a lot of time like cooking meals and I want a good kitchen. I want an open floor plan. I want all these different things. And so showcasing that in a way where we have the creative ability to kind of like hit a home run and basically like show them what is great about the property is something that we can do before they actually start looking for an apartment, like, and then like, of course, like as they go down the consideration stage of the funnel, it's more of like hitting them with retargeting ads and also just hitting them with a non-branded search campaign. And as they're like starting to type in like apartments near me, where it's a very, very vague search term and they don't really know what they want and they're trying to search. But because you had that brand awareness in place in the first part or the first part of the funnel, they're going to recall your brand name as they're doing those non-branded searches. And then they're being like, oh, I saw this great kitchen on this ad. I want to start looking at this apartment. And they click on the ad and they're like, that's how you capture their attention. You build up that brand awareness, you build up that brand consideration, and then you help them to convert.
So many questions and thoughts as you went through that, but I think that is really helpful, to just explain the importance of the full funnel, all the kind of mechanisms that need to be in play in order to sustain a healthy pipeline and do it in an efficient way. So good stuff. I want to come back to the branding component, so don't let me lose that. But I want to back up to these reporting calls because I think that's, from what I understand and just what you were saying to me again offline, I think you're doing a good job and an important job in speaking to, we were talking full funnel, but back to that broader picture of like how to normalize, what's happening at a property. Because if you only are looking at certain subsets of data, then, you can miss some stuff. So how or what, would you say are some of the more important questions that either come up from your clients or that you're presenting to the client to capture a broader picture, a fuller picture? So, for example, a new competitor comes online. They're only a quarter mile down the street. Similar asset. They're new and they're fresh and they have nothing but inventory. How might that impact your results in lead flow, your search campaign, et cetera? And that's not an actual question. I'm just using it to kind of get you started here. But what are some of the other things that, since you've been at Digible, and maybe are universal to digital advertising and marketing that, but I prefer you keep it obviously to multifamily, but that are some of the wild cards or things that can throw off the picture? I don't want to say just, lead quality or volume, but could kind of, disrupt, if you're not paying attention, what's really going on.
Yeah. One thing that first comes to my mind is the pricing of the actual units, because that is a moving target at all times, depending on how many units are available. And so every day it could be different. And so when other communities are offering a concession and the price is like just changing every single day, like it makes it hard to kind of like just grapple with like, I guess what, how we can utilize that or like how that's going to impact the user's perspective of, there's a concession happening at this lease up compared to this, our building is not having a concession and the price just increased because there aren't as many units available. I'm going to go down to that lease up because that's like, it's right next door basically and offers better pricing. And so pricing plays a big factor. Concessions play a big factor. And it all goes back to like the user experience too, where I talk on my calls with my clients. The first thing I ask is like, okay, tell me your current occupancy, tell me your trending occupancy, tell me like what you're learning from your property. So that way I understand how to like read the data and then kind of make I guess
informed decisions. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think like that's like when we go through that, like that helps me to understand. And then we're able to kind of say, okay, like if we're sitting at 97% occupancy, or maybe let's go with a 94%. So maybe they're having a really hard time leasing those 3-bedroom apartments.
Never happens.
Yeah, yeah, and
Those damn 3 bedrooms.
yeah, for real. Then like it's okay. Well, let's put our money towards our ad spend towards those 3-bedroom apartments and just trying to advertise or market those rather than trying to focus on the 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms. That way, we're being as efficient as possible with the amount of money that we're spending. And then on top of that, like, okay, well, you just launched a concession. Okay, how long is that concession running? Like, let's put that into our ads and like make sure that we're creating this enticing experience and like user friendly experience that also translates directly to the website. And that just all like helps to kind of make the user journey a lot better, in my opinion, and just helps to kind of push leads down that marketing funnel and capture that last bit of demand.
Totally. Some of the other variables for me that come to mind, and just want to give you a chance to speak to them, or if you've encountered some of these, but just soft markets versus hot markets, and how that could impact what you're seeing as far as results. And a lot of our clients, while they are concentrated regionally, many of them are interstate, meaning, they have properties in more than one state. So they might get accustomed to certain trends, right, within certain geographic concentrations. Then they come online with a property in another state and they don't see the same thing. And not to say it's all as simple as, distressed or soft markets versus hot markets, but that can affect performance, reputation, which this industry isn't not talking about, but they not near the degree that it used to. And I think it's the distraction of AI. I'll just say, but that was another one when I was first coming in the industry, now crazy enough, almost 11 years ago, that was something we always tried to account for. It's like, hey, this is a 3.5-star asset or property, according to Google reviews. We're going to have to work a little harder versus one that's got the wind at their back. It's like you have a 5-star, 4.8, immaculate, so that could impact how much we're going to need to spend on promoting the experience of this property, because we're going to have to overcome some of the bad press, so to speak, that you're seeing in reputation. And we did talk about, just generally like the competitive landscape. I think also about what else are they running or not running. So are you running ILS? Are you not running ILS? And does that create tailwinds or headwinds when it comes to search campaigns? So we can go, there. And to me, that's what's, I guess, exciting, but can also be overwhelming probably to enter into that conversation. So any of those, either that you have direct experience or some thoughts on, but then the follow-up question to this is, with all the potential noise, Mitch, how do you, is it more intuitive? Is it based on just kind of where the conversation takes you? Or is this something that you dive into pretty quickly, I'll say, when a new property comes on, where it's like, hey, I want to try to kind of normalize this up front and look at all the things that are going on as much as we can, so that I'm better aware as we go forward. And if you say no to this, then you're going to look terrible. If you say yes, then you're on the hot seat to speak with more specificity. So I'm putting you in a tough situation, but I'll stop there. But yeah, just out of some of those other variables, are there some other things that you've encountered, called out, that you have seen being really influential, for better or worse? Back to tailwinds and headwinds. And then the second question is, when do you dive into all that noise with the client? Because there's a lot, right?
Yeah. I guess like the first part of that, I think competition is definitely plays a significant impact in the overall market, and of course, like that's going to drive up your cost per click, so your CPC, and so you're going to be spending more for one click, and when you have that limited budget, it's gonna not go as far. And so you're not going to get as many leads. You're going to see that CPC go up, that total quality of leads go down, and which makes it really tough to chew or swallow. And so,
well, what do you do with that situation exactly? So it's
absolutely.
like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I think like so when we come into that type of situation, we definitely are looking at different optimizations we can make within our campaigns, such as like, okay, like what keywords are performing, what like high value keywords like are going to like resonate most with users. Maybe it's like the ad copy that we are utilizing within our campaigns, or it might even be like, hey, like let's try and make sure that we offer that concession or we have that floor plan focus in place. Or those are just some of the things that come top of mind to me. But
Well, let me, before I'm going to squeeze this in,
yeah.
would you, generally speaking, say, uh, shift more towards long tail, higher conversion, more obscure, we'll call it, if people don't know long tail keywords, back to the jargon and the vernacular, but those are going to be more exact matches, not the broad sweeping like apartments near me in, Nashville or something. So in the scenario of, hey, there's more competition, your cost per click is actually going up, not down, not a good thing. Here's what I'd recommend. Spend more money right now from what you have on those more exact matches, the longer tail strategy, or would you say we actually are going to move towards or stay where we're at or towards the short tail, meaning actually some of those general, which may sound crazy, but bear with me, and we're going to let go of all of those long tail. So I think most people that have been in this industry long enough, specifically, I'll say digital advertising, subscribe to, you're going to get higher conversion rates with the long tail. You're going to get more volume with the short tail. So I feel like you could still play it either way, though, if you're starting to see that your cost per acquisition is going up, your cost per click is going up. You could abandon completely the long tail so that you can keep your volume up and just play those numbers. Or you could say, I'm actually going to abandon the short tail, let go of my volume, and try and increase conversions.
Yeah, I think it's a very unique like thought process, and I think it's definitely something worthwhile to look at. It all goes back to, okay, like are we willing to sacrifice the demand now and get it later? Because of course, like as you're referencing, like those long tail keywords or long tail search terms are going to be higher intent, but the short tail is going to be less, like more broad, but it's going to help pay off later on because of course, like as I mentioned earlier, within the consumer journey they're just starting their journey.
Yeah.
And they're trying to figure out, okay, what do I even want?
Yep.
Compared to, okay, I want a 2 bedroom apartment, cat friendly, dog friendly, fenced in yard, like to all these different things. And it's just like they're looking for something very, very, very specific.
Mm-hmm.
And so it all goes back to okay, like what is our current occupancy?
Mm-hmm.
What's our trend? And so that's our North Star about how we should go about our strategy moving forward.
Yeah. Well, I think even just this thread highlights, and I had a podcast with Melissa Morris, who's a great manager here, paid media manager, just talking about how much you can rely on AI and Google right now to optimize your campaign's performance versus the need still for humans. And, not to make this anything kind of existential, but I know that's a growing question. And rightfully, there's more and more solutions out there in agencies that are touting the capabilities of AI. And it's hard not to get, I guess, enamored or swept up in that. But what we're talking about is highly contextual. And so fair to say that, and this isn't a shameless plug, but just the importance, whether it's with your account manager or whether it's with the person that's hands-on keyboard running these campaigns, that these are the type of conversations, this kind of depth, these nuances that are the difference in getting the most out of your, often constrained budget and the difference of mediocre output. Would you agree, generally speaking, to that?
Absolutely. I think as account managers, like we want to be a part of our client's team. Like I view myself as part of my client's teams, and I'm willing to go above and beyond and try to do everything I can to make sure that we're running the right campaigns at the right time, targeting the right people, and that way they can hit their goals too. So if they hit their goals, I'm happy.
Yeah. Well, so you're saying you're a 16th Digible employee, and the other, whatever, 3/4 of that is your clients.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I love that. So I said I wanted to come back to branding, but before I do, because I can't get it out of my head, this reputation thing, is that something that has come up? And I know your clients pretty well, but that is just even part of the conversation these days. Or I think I was saying, AI has kind of maybe created a distraction among other things from that topic. But as I said, 10 years ago, that's all anybody could talk about. So I'm just wondering, this is more just pulse check, temperature check. Is that something that your clients mention or you're thinking about much in how you're marketing or suggesting like your recommendations for a property, or is it like whenever I see a range of, let's just say 3.5 to 4.5, I move on, you know?
I personally think, well, it is conversations we do have with our clients, and
Still coming up.
yeah, not as frequently, but
Mhm.
I think like a large majority of our clients are already aware of like how important brand recognition is, and so like when we're looking or when we're talking about that Google business profile, making sure like those reviews are top notch or at least like pretty good, like 4.5 or better. Like we're like having those conversations and then trying to understand, okay, like, well, like if your property is not doing so hot, let's look at your Google business
Mhm.
profile, see
Mhm.
what the reviews look like.
Mhm.
And if it's like a 3.0, 2.0, like, okay, like let's look to see like what's going on the property or on site,
Mhm.
which kind of leads into like, okay, well, there's other contributing factors that come into play, such as like, okay, well, how like if I have trash that is coming taken every night, was that actually taken or has it not been working or like, has the trash compactor been broken? Has my maintenance request been fulfilled within a timely manner? And so like all these other things that come into play that cause like that brand reputation to potentially be sacrificed.
Mhm.
And so like all these on-site things also impact that reputation. And I saw a stat that since Gen Z is now entering into the market and now becoming renters and whatnot, I saw
Who is Gen Z?
I I believe their ages 18 to 22. Don't quote me on that. I think it's somewhere around that age range. But yeah, I think
We'll roll with that.
yeah,
Yeah.
let's do it. But anyway, 99% of them actually look at reviews before making a purchase.
Well,
So
that's significant.
that reputation is super significant, and like it makes you want to make sure that that's in a good spot. So that's
And
why.
and are they looking in the same spot, or has their uh I guess commitment to reviews, trying to vet a property changed, meaning whether it's GPT or whether it's social media. um I think, and I could be wrong, but it seemed pretty linear, almost pretty simple. It's like, hey, it's Google reviews, so just know your reputation there is critical. Has that changed at all, do you think, as far as how, especially with these Gen Z, they're trying to vet a property? Because I have a feeling that it's not. I'm not saying they're not looking at Google reviews. I'm sure that still is one of their stops, but do you think that there's a couple of other areas now that are folding into this process as far as vetting a property's reputation?
Yeah, absolutely. I think social media is probably one of the top ones where they go to for all their answers. So that's definitely something to take into consideration when looking at your media mix.
So that's a pretty bold statement. I'm not sure if I'm going to get on board with that or agree with you fully, but we also talked about this offline, and I think this is a good time set up, and it will probably connect on some level to my question that I want to get to you about branding. But you had mentioned that now social media has become an even more trusted source than we'll say Google or just about any other media when it comes to renters. Or maybe you were saying that even more broadly, but in either case, that's a bit of a surprise. And I say that because of all the AI, the inauthentic, content, I suppose, or AI driven content. And I love that you were bringing this up and are suggesting it to some of our clients to lean into more user generated. That's probably a much better chance of cutting through, all the AI and the clutter and the confusion, and giving a more authentic, kind of voice and picture of the property. So yeah, talk to me about how renters are using social media to get all those answers, because it seems to me a lot of what we see on social media sites for apartments aren't so much about all the answers as much as like, hey, this is important, but this is what it's like to live here. You'll get a flavor of the resident banter, some of the things that we push out on site, just as far as, hey, this month this is going on, and that has been pretty consistent. But it sounds like you're saying, based on some of the research trends, how things are shifting, that people should put even more effort into their social media because of what, like this kind of trust dynamic. So yeah, just
Yeah.
trying to open this up for you.
Yeah.
Like, talk to me more about how things are changing
Absolutely.
for social media.
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, like one of the like social media is just one of the platforms that people utilize to find an answer to potentially get introduced into a brand or an apartment complex or whatnot. And so there's multiple touch points across the consumer journey. But
Do you think they're getting there? Sorry to interrupt, Mitch,
yeah,
but soon. Do you think they're going there earlier, later, in the middle? So as we are always talking about the customer journey, and you mentioned that
mm,
more and more renters are looking at social media now to try and get some of their answers.
mhm.
Do you think that's sooner, middle, or later?
This is I don't think I can answer that question is because everyone's journey is so different
Love it.
and everyone spends
Totally agree.
a different amount of time on social media or on Google or on all these different platforms. And so like you could get hit with an ad like 3 different times, 7 different times, and then you finally convert.
Mhm.
And so like everyone's journey is different. And so I don't think like there's just one specific number I could say.
I'm with you. I
So
slowed you down though. You were about to get into,
yeah.
yeah. How should if you were bringing on a new PMC and they were like, we're really trying to figure out, how to carve out kind of our attention and our resources, like where to really spend money. What are your thoughts, Mitch, when it comes to social media? What are some of the key kind of headlines here for us as we think about how to attack that?
Yeah. I mean, I think as we've been talking about for AI, like it's really, really impacted like the authenticity of that user experience. And of course, like everyone wants to have be a part of a brand that's authentic, and that everyone wants like that authentic view of like what it's actually like to live in at this apartment complex and whatnot. And so like that user generated content is something that I'm interested in potentially like trying to pitch to my clients. They're saying like, hey, we should definitely be trying to test this across all of our different platforms, such as like organic social, paid social. And I think it's something that's really worth the test because like it builds that authenticity. It helps build up that brand reputation. And also like it's like content that's user generated. So like it's less effort or less of a lift on the actual PMC themselves. So that being said, I envision there being like basically offering like a concession to the potential resident that's living at the community, and like saying like, hey, like we'll give $50 off your rent if you help us make this video with these brand guidelines in place, and basically just talking about what you think of the apartment, what you like about it. Show us around, show us your your I guess apartment complex or your apartment itself. There's been times in the past where like I've actually had clients do this already, but it's like doing competitions and saying like, hey, take pictures of like how you're decorating your apartment for Halloween or for any holiday where it kind of just builds up that community. And then it helps not only retain that current resident because they feel like they're part of that community, but it also showcases how the apartment could look for a potential user that's trying to figure out where they want to live.
So this all makes sense to me. You've been described, I think you know this, but if you don't, you're going to hear it now, as one of the more data oriented or driven account managers at Digible. And with that comes a great responsibility.
Mm.
So this is my Obi-Wan or some sort of movie reference here
Spider-Man.
or setup. Yeah, was it Spider-Man? Is that what you said? Yeah. Thank you for correcting me. I still live in the Star Wars era, the old Star Wars, the good Star Wars. But how then? What should you be looking for to validate what you just said? So all of it makes sense to me, and I would imagine to any people listening, marketers. Yeah. So how do I know if that's true though or not? That the effort to use more authentic, maybe even user generated, meaning current resident content is going to have a meaningful impact, because that takes effort and in some cases even money, but certainly time. to corral some residents, to go through the process of videoing them, you know, and so that could come at a trade-off, uh, if we're not successful, an opportunity cost. I could have put that effort somewhere else. How would you go about validating
Yeah.
that? Because again, super logical. I think good sound strategy, rationale. But that can be where marketers find themselves sometimes when they do stuff like this, and an operator's like, "Hey, what was that thing you said we were going to do with user-generated content? How did it work?" How do they answer that?
Yeah. Within paid social, A/B testing is probably one of the better strategies to go forward with. So doing your evergreen content compared to potentially one of the user-generated content, and just kind of testing them at the same time frame and seeing how your primary key performance indicators like interact or are within those campaigns.
Love it. You spelled it out instead of KPIs.
Yeah, yeah.
Well done.
I remembered.
Yeah, quick study there, Mitch.
But
So give me an example. I mean, what I hear a lot when it comes to social media is air quotes engagement metrics. And so, those would be things like, and maybe I'm definitely dating myself. I think likes still exist, but, comments, shares, that kind of stuff is what we often hear in social media is like those KPIs. And you're saying maybe you could look at an evergreen that isn't as authentic / user generated beside another one and would expect your theory, hey, you're going to see more engagement, more shares, more likes, more comments, whatever on that authentic. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're more so referencing that organic content, and having it like just stay on your feed and everything, and that's in like when you look at comparisons of like month to month data or month over month data, or just like the average volume of likes or shares or reposts or whatnot. I think like that those are all definitely metrics to take into consideration to see like how well that ad or that I guess post performed. But like when we're talking paid, like we have a certain budget and then we are looking at click-through rate. So how many times was that ad clicked on compared to how many impressions it was served? And then kind of bouncing off of like, okay, well, that ad performed really well compared to the evergreen content. Let's try doing that ad versus another user-generated piece of content and seeing like how that performs. And kind of it's just this constant state of learning and iterating and trying to grow and trying to just kind of understand what resonates with our audiences.
All right, I'm going to push you since you went there. Click-through rate.
Yeah.
So this, when you look at the, I'll say, birth of digital advertising, this was the only metric that I feel like was referenced for the first 5 to 10 years. And then there was a rebellion. Now back to Star Wars. I don't know which movie that would be. I'm not going to ask you to help me there. Maybe if I was talking Spider-Man.
Yeah, I'll let you.
Yeah, you'd be able to jump in. Against click-through rate, and it was like that's a vanity metric. It doesn't matter. What matters is conversions. What matters is quality of leads, etc. And this isn't to open up a can of worms and say, should we even be talking about click-through rate anymore? Although I'd always be happy to indulge or get into that thread. But where I'm going with this is, and I'm going to stick on social media because I know for a fact this, as well as some of the stuff that you'll see or hear from agencies providing SEO solutions, is the struggle to quantify the value of anything that's not paid search is an ILS. It's like, okay, I'm with you, Mitch. I'm subscribing to your recommendation, your theory about more authentic, less AI, more genuine content, even from our residents. And I'm also with you about these KPIs. Like, I get it. If the click-through rate goes up, if there's more, as you said, repost shares, that's all good. But how do I know if that click-through was meaningful? How do I know if that was quality? And so I have my own small theories or opinions on this, but how might that show up, where I could get at whether that was a quality click-through rate or a quality click, but versus just, somebody that was admiring my incredible user-generated resonant content,
Yeah. Yeah. You're asking some really good questions, but I want to reiterate that
that's what I'm here for, man.
That social media, Instagram, Meta, like all those different channels, like where you're talking about, hey, like, did we get any conversions out of this? That's not the primary focus of what paid social and organic social is.
Mm-hmm.
Paid social is trying to drive that brand awareness. Organic social is trying to interact with users and trying to just basically uh, create that brand and showcase that brand to potential users that may be interested in living there. So the primary focus should not be on driving conversions because they are not ready to convert. They are focused on trying to see, oh, like this is a pretty picture. I like this kitchen, or I like this pool. I can envision myself living there. It's to build up that brand recognition. It's not to convert them. That's why a media mix, a full media mix, is so important to have. So that way, like we're filling the funnel, we're pushing them down the funnel, and then when they're ready to convert, we're there.
All right, here's where we're gonna deviate.
Okay.
I'm gonna veer from so principally speaking, I don't disagree with what you're saying. However, unless you're at ground zero, nothing's been started, I wouldn't set that expectation. I would actually set the expectation that this upper funnel stuff is pointed at conversion, and your branding's pointed at conversion. And so I'm going to come back to something you said, and hopefully this clicks. But you talked about the critical role that these things play, so that when somebody has been exposed to the brand, that they're more likely to convert. So that will ultimately play out in that you're getting a higher conversion rate and more. So both volume and quality by rolling out that social media campaign, by really focusing on your brand. And I think what we frequently, and this is industry wide, but we will separate these. And I understand it at the surface, the whole funnel thing. It's like, hey, and in our industry, multifamily, it's like we're trying to make sure we continue to promote the experience at this property, because you can't just rely on bottom of the funnel and think you're going to be successful. But if you really think it all the way through, ultimately, what are you trying to achieve with that branding? What are you trying to achieve with the social media? Conversions.
Yeah.
It's like it all comes down to I'm trying to get more people that are excited and interested in my property so that I can see that conversion rate go up and the number of conversions, so that my demand and I accelerate the leasing velocity. So that's, I don't know if it's my hot take, but I would love, and I'm really on this train right now, which I think I said on one of my other, Riffing with Reid sessions, but just SEO, I'm really stuck on this. I think it's completely been misconstrued, I guess, or we're misguided in the way that we evaluate SEO. I think it is a lead gen. I don't think it's, a check the box or a technical. It's like, when you really think about SEO, what are you trying to do? You're trying to get a better conversion rate, and you're trying to get more visibility for the property, right? So the more content, the better that you optimize that content, the meta descriptions, meta titles, the schema, getting it on Google Business. What's the point? It's so that more people can see my property. And why are you doing that? Because I'm trying to generate leads, right? And then when people do get there, I'm trying to use SEO to actually get them to convert more efficiently. So in both cases, that is pointed at leads. And I think, not to oversimplify, but it's the same thing when we talk about Spotify, TikTok, all these things. They're all generating. That's the mission. They're all aimed at trying to generate leads. But it is a longer game. So I do totally acknowledge that. That's why I'm saying if you were at ground zero, I might explain it or think of it a little bit more that way. But once you get the rolling with one of these properties, you're a few months in, start thinking of everything as aimed at lead generation and improving the quality of leads. So that's my little sidebar for today. Maybe not the only one. But what I was going to tell you is one of the things that I think should be considered when you're looking at social media click-through rate and engagements, so that you can better quantify the value, is how much of your pie chart in Google Analytics is shifting towards referral, direct traffic. I'll even say unknown, but meaning non-paid. So when you look at a Google Analytics, a common account for a property, you'll often see the majority of the traffic is in paid advertising, and that could be search, it could be ILS, all that stuff. And it's the most attributable, right? It's the easiest. So it also is like kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, is like people want what they feel like they can see, touch, have the most trust in. Totally get it. But if you pay attention to all that other stuff you're doing, and you're doing it right and you're doing it effectively, you'll start to see the pie chart expand on referral, direct, and I'll say unknown. And that to me is a good thing, because that means you're not now overly reliant on paid traffic. You're starting to build up your equity of referral and the direct, which is somebody's come back, they've already seen the website, they just type it in, they're there. That's a simple way of describing it. And the more that you focus on these secondary, tertiary, and things like SEO, the more that pie chart will shift, and the less hard, I'll say, your paid media has to work. Mm-hmm. So many people let paid media work too hard. Mm-hmm. And I think you want it to work smarter, not harder. And social media, as well as some of these other things that I just surfaced, I think are a helpful way to get there.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to go on too far of a rant.
No,
but
I love that
you with me?
I love that you brought up SEO. I want to go one further, and what I am really passionate about is conversion rate optimization. So how well can you optimize?
You did it again. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
CRL for those in the know. Go ahead, Mitch.
But I am really passionate about, like, hey, we're driving all this traffic to your website. If your website isn't top notch or isn't convertible, then you're not going to get the leads anyway. So then again, you're wasting money. And so, like, as we're like talking about websites and talking about how important SEO is and talking about like all these other AIO, like there's like a million of them now. But going back to CRO, I just am really passionate about that and trying to say, like, okay, well, if we have too many things on our website or on a specific landing page where we're setting that traffic from a paid search campaign, then they're not going to convert because they're going to get distracted, and they're going to be like, oh, well, what's on this? Or like, oh, like there's all these different things within the community. And then on that community page, they click on an ice cream parlor that they're really interested in. They're like, oh my gosh, and they leave the website. And so we, like, when we're driving that traffic, we need to make sure that they convert by submitting a form fill. So schedule a tour, contact us, like making sure that we are capturing some type of material that we can then send to the property, and then the on-site team can follow up with them. So
this is a great, I guess, call-out point. Another one that I'm passionate about, and loads me up for 2 or 3 other questions or threads. And I'll just say, for those operators, but marketers, I know can appreciate this too. What Mitch is describing, I think, is so comparable to sales operations on site. So I know that there can often be frustration, in all the lost opportunities that happen on site when somebody's come to tour, or even when somebody's just trying to call. You don't pick up the phone, or you don't handle the lead well, or when they get there, you botch the opportunity. That's how we feel, or what you're describing as digital marketers with a website. It's the same thing, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's like we have a goal that we're trying to, get to when they get to your website, just the way you do when they're moving towards a tour or property. So I think that should resonate. How do you know, or what would you recommend as far as timeline to make changes? Because I think that's one of the hardest things probably for marketers, especially that often have multiple properties, sometimes 20, 30, 40, 50 on timeline to make changes to one property's website. So just to be explicit about this with CRO, it's like, hey, I think we might want to move some things around on the page, because right now when I'm looking at this, it's not converting it what I'm used to seeing. And I think it's really because you have the phone number in the wrong place, or the address, or you're over emphasizing this hero image. And there's other things people want to see. But any comments, suggestions, and timeline? It's because I could see people getting carried away and overreacting, where it's like every week you get on a call and they're like, hey, move that around, move that around. So is it 90 days? Is it 30 days? And is there a certain amount of traffic? Like any kind of just some general best practices when it comes to optimizing for CRO.
Yeah, I would say 90 days is probably going to be your best bet, especially with the industry that we're in. Like, we get a certain amount of traffic. It's not like we're doing any Black Friday sales. So of
Yeah.
course, like it's not going to be like you're going to spike of traffic.
That would be interesting, though.
That
I'm going to hold on to that one.
that would be
we may
that would be
we may
sweet.
be the first. Digible comes forward with a Black Friday for multifamily.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I would say 90 days just to make sure that you're statistically significant and making sure that we're making the right decision.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. That's helpful orientation. All right. I'm going to try to use everything that we just set up to this point to get us a little further on branding and some of your thoughts there, what you've seen work, what hasn't worked. But fair to say, I'm not even asking, but I'm going to still frame this as a question, that differentiating a Class A apartment in any mid to major market is difficult.
Mm.
Fair to say?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on this? Because when you look at apartment websites, at least for me, and I don't think I'm one of one here, they frequently look very similar. I don't want to say and be unfair and say they all look the same, but if your client says, "Hey, I'm bringing this new property online. I'm super excited to market it. I can't wait to tell you about it, Mitch. It's got an infinity pool. It's got backsplashes. It's got vaulted ceilings. It's got crown and molding. It is in the best location in all of Nashville." How do you then translate that, or would you recommend, like, how do you take that and turn that into differentiators when you know, and maybe even they do, that there's 20 others within that same 1 to 2 miles that have vaulted ceilings, have crown molding, and I know this is a very difficult, so I don't expect you to like solve maybe one of the hardest challenges in the industry in this moment. But what I'm just trying to call out here is differentiators. So hard with websites, the way that they look and what people expect from them, and then just the reality of how crowded it is in multifamily with these Class A. I mean, they just keep popping up. So, what does that sound like right now for you with clients when you're talking about a new asset or how to break through all the clutter? Because I loved what you said about user generated, and I'm not trying to give you, I guess the I don't want to say easy answer because I don't think that's easy, but that seems like that may be one of the things to lean more into if you're trying to cut through all the clutter of multifamily Class A.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I won't answer with user generated content.
Go ahead.
But I will say that like one thing that I talk a lot about with my PMCs is that it's so important to have high quality images, video assets of the property, of those amenities to show them off, because not everyone lives in the area, and I'm not going to drive to an apartment where I don't know what it looks like. I want to know what's in the area. I want to know what the amenities look like. I want a virtual tour potentially. Like, there's a lot of things that I'm looking for, and the higher quality that the images or the
media,
the more enticing I am to, or more enticed I am to actually go to the property or like schedule a tour. So, granted, like that's a very like high level answer, but having good media where we can actually utilize that across all of our different platforms when we are starting to market, especially like within Google's the Google sphere. So Performance Max. Now we have Demand Gen, where it's that big focus on that creative assets and whatnot, and just utilizing it on everything across Google is like going to be super important and kind of like help just make sure that we're setting ourselves up for success. So.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. I think the big asterisk that I'm going to put there for you is as long as it's not stock.
Oh, not that goes back to the user generated content. I don't want AI.
Yeah, because it may look pristine, and then you get there, and I'm gonna date myself again, but it's Chevy Chase Vacation, or no, that's Karate Kid, where he hears that there's a pool, and then he shows up, and there's a live duck, swimming in there with lots of fungus and moss. So that's not what you want. So yeah, make sure that it's legit content, but also hold yourself to high standards, I think, is definitely the message. But I don't want to let go yet of differentiators. So is it something that is part of your, I guess, rubric formula, and maybe both for, because it seems like it may not be a focus for stabilized properties that have been, online for 5, 10, 20 years, that even comes up versus when you hear about a lease up, it's like immediately the differentiators usually start coming out, especially from our clients. They're excited. They're like, "Oh my God, Mitch,
this is awesome."
Yeah. I mean, I still remember, I think at the time, it doesn't matter now because it was in Atlanta and the name has changed, but it was called You in the Park and they had a cryogenic chamber in the lobby. It was the first time I had ever heard that. And they were like so excited. I was like, that's amazing. I don't know if that will be the driver, the key difference, but maybe I'm wrong, but my question is how common is it to spend time there, like within each property, where you're talking to your clients and they're bringing those to you, or you're fleshing them out, and I'm looking for full vulnerability here. Speaking of authenticity, because I really wouldn't blame you if you were like, and I don't want to contradict myself because I did go off on a rant a few podcasts ago. I keep saying sessions about differentiators, but where you don't spend as much time there because you're conceding that there are 20 other assets within 2 miles that have a very similar amenity set. They're in a very similar location. They have very similar prices. They have very similar reputation, etc. So I'm actually not going to put a lot of energy on understanding and marketing these differentiators. I'm going to let go of that, and I'm going to focus us in these other 20 things that are also important. So yeah, just looking for full honesty, and maybe this moment, this exchange might have you pause and say, I'm actually going to come back to that, or it might not. So yeah.
Yeah.
Shoot me straight here, Mitch.
When we're onboarding properties, we ask for top 5 unique selling propositions, and that's
AKA differentiators.
Yes. So yeah.
No acronym though for differentiators, so we have to say the word.
Yeah. But I think it's really important to kind of like make sure that we are in tune with everything that's on site at the property, because then we can include it where appropriate within our ads, because we're never going to know when our ads are going to be hitting like the user, like what the user's going through, like in their personal life, work life. Like we could be hitting them like they're taking a coffee break at work, or they might be doing something else where like they just see your ad and they're like, wow, I could really use a swim right now, or wow, like that like coffee bar really looks nice, or like just something like that, where it's just like you don't know like where your ads are going to hit and what's going to resonate with what user. And so that's why like it's so important to just make sure that we understand, like you're working with the PMC to like kind of understand, okay, like these are your top 5 that you want to focus on, and then how can we work them into our media mix to make sure that we're showing up the right place at the right time for the right person.
Yeah, totally. What I would love to see is, and so this could go out to Kingsley, and I'm trying to remember the other research company. I feel terrible because they're multifamily and they're terrific. And we had them on the show 2 years ago, so that's my excuse. 2 years is long enough for me to forget. But we were just talking about some of the more meaningful insights coming out of multifamily research right now, with a lens or a focus, of course, on marketing. And what I would love to see is, you were describing those USPs. How consistent is it from the marketer to the on-site team, and what they would surface as those USPs? You would like to think or assume that they'd be very consistent, but I have a hunch that they might not be, because the marketer, is excited, as you said, and can't wait to market what they see as the differentiators, the USPs, right? But when people are actually coming in, doing tours, and then hopefully ultimately converting and leasing there, the person that is signing, meaning the on-site leasing manager, property manager, may be hearing some different stuff as far as what motivated them to lease that property. So how much is that loop being closed between the marketer's, idea of USPs and how to showcase this versus the actual reality And that happens. That data's there, I think. If you just ask the property manager, it's like, hey, was it the infinity pool, the cryogenic chamber? What? No. No, what it was.
The garage.
Yeah, exactly. Or it was the events, whatever it is. But, it's just I have a sense that delta is actually bigger than we might realize and would be a great opportunity, right? To close the gap. I still think there's just so much that is not totally, and this is just one example, and I could be wrong, and probably exists more with some clients, right? Some PMCs than others, but of the disconnect between operations, marketing, and on-site nests underneath operations. But the more that they can be clear on whether it's differentiators or strategy, the value proposition, the more likely you're going to see great results, because everybody is aligned. So Captain Obvious there for a minute. All right. I'm going to wrap with a question that I've just started to be asking more regularly, and I'm enjoying because it often freezes people. So we're going to see. You mentioned you have some theater background, so
let's do it.
You have to put on a good face even if you're frozen or not.
Okay.
What would you say are the top 3 most overrated factors to a successful marketing campaign?
Top 3
most overrated factors, elements to a successful marketing campaign. So these would be things that frequently are assumed to be critical, assumed to be very influential, however you want to think about this. And you would say, not necessarily. I actually think those are a bit overrated. The things that really matter, and you don't have to fill out the second part. Right now, I just want to hear, give me, and this is setting you up a little bit for hot takes, being a contrarian, but you and I actually had a conversation you may not remember across the street, and we got a little bit of this kind of angle, I guess, on, contrarian type stuff. I don't remember what I asked you or what you said, but here's your big second chance. So wow, everybody missed. Yeah.
Number one, I think when we look at cost per click in terms of paid search, that does sound like a scary metric. And everyone else is like, oh my gosh, we're spending $8 for this click. But if that turns into a lead and that turns into a lease, that click was worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And so too many times we're negating like traffic that is like too overpriced because we want to make sure that our budget's efficient, that we negate some of this traffic that might convert one day and might convert over a specific user, where in instance, like instead of looking at CPC, we should just be looking at that cost per acquisition and trying to kind of hone in on that and make recommendations and like just, I guess, focus on cost per acquisition.
It's a golden one. Yeah. I love it. Couldn't agree more. So often, even as weird as this sounds, it has nothing to do with cost per click, but we'll talk about things here at Digible that we're not sure whether or not to invest in, and somebody will be like, "Oh, I think that's going to be really expensive." I'm like, "Expensive? It's relative.
Mm-hmm.
Is it expensive if the business outcome is 10x?" No, it was the best decision we ever made. Yeah. It's the same thing with cost per click, right? Yeah. It does not matter at all. What matters is what you said, cost per acquisition or return on ad spend, which, I'm excited. I think we're going to be doing a lot more there over the next year. Do you have one or two others before I ask you the flip side of this? I don't want to mess up your brain, so I'll let you.
I think like going back to that conversation you and I had across the street, of course, I remember that.
Right. But glad somebody did.
We were talking about how important it is to train on-site teams and why it's so impactful to kind of make sure that the on-site team understands the difference between someone that randomly comes in the door who doesn't know anything about the property and is just there like, hey, I'm in the area. I wanted to do a quick tour. Do you have any availability? Versus a marketing qualified lead that has all this information about the property. They know, like, they've seen your gallery, they've seen like all the, like they've gone on Google Maps and like looked at all the different areas around town and like they've gone and driven past it and whatnot. And so like, they know what they want and they want to be wowed within that tour. And so those are two very different types of people. And so training the on-site team is so super significant that it's probably one of the most important factors within.
So you jumped ahead and went to most underrated because that was my next question.
My bad.
No, you'll still get to keep that one. I think that's a great one. But coming back to overrated, and no big deal if you're like, I don't have a 2 and a 3 for you right now, but I want to give you room in case you do. But anything else that you would say too often, and this isn't in any way, don't feel like it. And again, I know your clients, so I'll get in front of this bus if if you're thinking of driving them over with it. But in your experience and what you've heard, that you would say, we talk about this too much. We worry about this too much. It's really overrated when it comes to, again, just as a reminder, contributing factors or components to a successful marketing campaign in multifamily. Anything else?
I think like one thing that comes to mind is when we are like adjusting budgets too frequently. I think like it does take time for those campaigns to stay in that, like get out of that learning phase when we increase or decrease that budget. And so making sure that we have that time to kind of like maintain course and let the algorithm do its thing. And then like down the road, like then we can start to have those conversations. But like I'm in conversations where it's like, okay, like let's reduce the budget because we're in a good spot. And like, yeah, that's great. But also like we shouldn't reduce it super significantly to the point where we're spending $1 a day, you know what I mean? And so those are like kind of like that's a number 2 for me. So
yeah, no, I think it's good. I'm God, what was the one I was going to offer up to fill you out with the third? Well, I lost it.
I'll come back.
It's the first time I've done that, though. I think we're 45 minutes in or something, so I'm proud of myself. Can happen more frequently than that. I'll just say that. All right. If it hits me, I'll come back to it. But you already got one big one on the board as far as most underrated. What else comes to mind when you're thinking about what contributes to a successful marketing campaign in multifamily that you would say, hey, we don't actually maybe talk about this enough?
Yeah.
You mentioned, just quick refresher, if somebody literally just dropped in. On-site team.
Yeah, on-site team is super important.
Yep.
But I love what you said earlier about how on-site teams kind of correlate to your website. And I think your website is something that's super significant and should be focused on, especially with how things are trending in terms of AI. And also like we're pushing all of our campaigns to your website. Like it's important to make sure that your website's good and it's convertible. So that's my second one.
Yeah. And I'm actually, and it's not in competition or conflict with what you just said, but it'll still maybe come off this way. I would say websites are among the most overrated, but let me be very clear, the creative aesthetics of a website. So what's most important about a website is how it performs. It's not how it looks. And it seems to me that there often is a lot of discussion and it isn't even always coming from the marketer, because a lot of times these owners, it's like, that's my baby and it better look pretty. And it's like, but what matters more, Do
you want the leads or do you want it to look pretty?
Yeah. And ideally it's both, but I think, it's a no-brainer. It's like what you're looking for is a website that can convert, convert.
Yeah. That's why there's a photo gallery page for your photos.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It is gnawing at me that I can't call back up this other overrated. Oh, man. All right. Well, stay tuned. That'll be my cliffhanger reason for somebody to come back and listen to the next episode. Mitch, this has been awesome. You're quite literally in the hot seat because we have 2 massive lights. People can't see. They're, starting to bake me a little bit, starting to get the sweat beating. Yeah. Anything else that you felt compelled to share today before we drop off this episode?
No, just that I really appreciate you having me on today, and looking forward to seeing how the rest of the Riffing with Reids go. So,
oh yeah, well, I guarantee this one will be the breakthrough. Perfect. As I told you, I'm still trying to get to 2 million followers and listeners.
Okay,
we're 1,999,800. whatever. But we're going to get there, and this is going to be that moment. No, I'm kidding. No, it's really good stuff. Appreciate you rolling with it. And yeah, stay tuned. We will be back with more Riffing with Reid behind the scenes at Digible.